Hello, I'm really glad to be here tonight. A lot of places around Virginia, I'm known as the trauma lady. I am working on rebranding as the resilience lady, because the reason I care about trauma is because what I really care about is not just helping people bounce back, but bounce forward and thrive in their life. And so I'm here to talk about an issue that we're trying to break some silence on, because silence often gives consent. And so we want to bring awareness to a particular issue, and this is a health issue. And so I'd like you, as I'm talking, to reflect if you or someone you know may have some of these characteristics, which are known as a health epidemic in our country, and often a silent one. So you or someone you know have had one of the following things happen prior to the age of 18. Emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, feeling unloved or unwanted by your family, being afraid that maybe your basic needs might not get met, divorce, separation, death of a caregiver, someone in your home that has perpetrated or witnessed domestic violence, someone with a mental health issue or challenge in your home, a substance abuse issue or challenge in your home, someone in your home who has been to jail or prison. By that definition, how many people in this room would know someone that had that lived experience? And what you'll see is you can't turn to the left or the right without seeing someone who has experienced trauma. And what I just defined is adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. It is recognized by the Center of Disease Control as the prime determinant of health. And yet, unlike texting while driving or smoking cigarettes when you're young, there is no national or state commercial about this issue, and yet it affects health. At a score of 4 of those things happening prior to the age of 18, you are 1,100% more likely to use IV drugs, i.e. our opioid and fentanyl epidemic. You are more than 550% more likely to become an alcoholic, more than 1,500% more likely to attempt suicide, depression, anxiety, COPD. At a 6, you're more likely to die 20 years younger than your counterpart at an average age of 60 instead of 80. And yet many of us have never heard of that. So why is that? Why does that happen? Well, I'd like to tell a story, 2 stories in fact, of the path of 2 different kids and how we as a community and your investments make a difference. The first story is about a kid named Henry. And Henry moves into your neighborhood at about the age of 2. And some people in the neighborhood go to greet the family at their apartment, but when they get near the apartment, they hear really loud sounds and yelling and screaming. And they get a little nervous and say, we do neighborhood watch and welcome people, but I don't know if we know how to address that, and they walk away. Next, the family joins a faith-based organization. And they notice that Henry in the class during the service is a little loud and has trouble playing with others, and they hear yelling between the parents. And they go to their faith-based leader and say, we think something's going on. And they say, no, we're responsible for spiritual health. We don't address those things. And it goes on. 3 years old, he's in a daycare setting. One day he comes in with a bruise. Mom comes in with a bruise. They ask questions, they report, and then they say, that is all we do because we're responsible for quality childcare, not that. And life goes on. At 5 years old, he's witnessed domestic violence in his home his entire life. He comes home from school, he's sent upstairs, he hears loud screaming and yelling downstairs and a crash. He runs downstairs and mommy's on the kitchen floor bleeding and daddy's over her. 5 police officers burst down the door. They grab the dad, put him in the car, grab the mom, put her in an ambulance, grab him, throw him in a car. A woman comes up, tapping on his window with a garbage bag of his things and says, we have to go. He's driven to a neighborhood he doesn't know, introduced to a family he's never met, goes to sleep not in his pajamas, not in his bed, crying. He wakes up in a different school. He has trouble paying attention. He doesn't know where his parents are, and the teacher begins to yell at him, and that voice sounds a lot like Dad's, and he doesn't know where Dad is. And life goes on. And now he's getting in more and more trouble, and his behavioral health file is getting bigger, and he's getting referrals, and his foster parents begin screaming at him because he's not paying attention, and he starts to wet his bed at night. And another lady comes and says, I'm your new social worker. Please pack your things. We have to go somewhere else. Soon he learns that his parents are not his parents anymore, termination of parental rights. And now, because his file is so thick, there are very few families that want him to come live with them. So in his 10th family placement at the age of around 12, he's listening and his foster parents are fighting and screaming. And he says, I'm never going to watch a man put their hands on a woman again. And he takes a swing, and the next thing he knows, he's arrested and sitting at intake at the local court service unit. Now that's a tough story to hear, and that's my intention. What I want you to think about is 12 systems and 50 people minimum touched Henry's life, and no one thought it was their job to deal with the trauma, to talk about the trauma, to become involved. And so we ask ourselves, I believe that all of us are caring people, genuinely. So how does that happen? And two things come to me. One, maybe we don't know about it. Maybe we weren't aware this is a health condition. Or second, maybe we think it happens to Henry in that neighborhood over there, not to us. But see, this isn't an us-them conversation, it's an all-of-us conversation. 46 million children this year in the United States will witness violence. That's 2/3 of the children in our country. 223 million adults in our country will experience trauma in their lifetime. So what do we do about that? Well, it's interesting because 70% of why any child or adult changes their behavior is because of the relationship they have with someone else. Relationship, connection, compassion is the evidence-based practice. So I'm going to tell you one more story. This is the story of Kat. And so Kat had 8 of those things happen to her before the age of 19. Kat was a girl that got locked in about 10 residential placements in her life between the ages of 13 and 19. She wasn't very popular with staff because she was really aggressive. She broke windows, tore down doors. She was tied up and put in 4-point restraints and injected with Thorazine. A nurse, who was probably doing the best she could, said to her one day, you know what? If you want to get out of here, you're going to have to act your age, not your shoe size, and come through me. And so Kat was thinking, something about me is broken, and I don't know how to do this. And I think that would have been her life except for a man named Howard. Howard was a mental health tech, which for many people in a residential environment, some might just think that's a babysitter that moves kids from place to place for 12 hours. But that's not who he was for Kat. He was a person that listened and took the risk to make a relationship with her. And the second rule of why people change behavior is their motivation, not ours. And so he thought, well, she likes tearing stuff up. So Kat, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take you to the gym, and you're going to exercise for an hour. And when you're done, I am going to let you tear up this entire pod for free. No consequences. And Kat's response was, oh, hell yeah. Right? The trick was that she had to crawl back because Howard had worn her out. See, Kat had Interstate 95 go into aggression because of the life she lived and an old country road go into exercise, and Howard knew that, and he said, let me teach her something new. And so then, now that Kat had gotten all that out, he listened to her story, and she told him chapter after chapter of things that happened, and he listened, and he said, you know what, Kat, I think you might do something important in your life. You just got to hang on long enough to figure out what that is. So Kat liked that, and for that reason, she got locked up over and over again to see Howard. That was not his goal, okay? But children will do just about anything when they find the adult who cares for them. And so one day he looked at her, he said, Kat, you come in here to see me? She said, yep. And he's like, here's my schedule, meet me in the lobby, right? And that's how she got through high school. She got a scholarship to college, went away, but a lot of times hard things don't stop at 18. She was raped. She attempted suicide, almost was successful, and was shipped back to the adult psychiatric institution where she was when she was a kid. And somehow Howard found out she was being admitted, and he showed up to her admission and he said, Kat, with tears in his eyes, please don't give up before you know what you can become, because I'm gonna hold hope right here until you're strong enough to grab it. I got you. That was the last time she was ever locked in a residential placement, the last time she ever attempted suicide. And the first job she ever had was as a mental health tech at that facility because she promised him she would pay that forward. And so we're sitting with 2 stories, and the goal is to be uncomfortable, because when we're uncomfortable, we're growing. right? And you may be feeling like, Allison, what am I supposed to do about this? Because this feels pretty big, right? This feels pretty big. And what I want you to hear is that it does not take letters behind your name or the right letters behind your name to connect with another human being. You have that right now. You have the ability to connect and invest in other kids. And why is that so important? Maybe because Kat's story may not be who you think it is, because Kat's story is my story. I went to collegiate high school in this community, right? And my nickname was Alley Cat. And a lot of people did not know what was going on with me. And I believe if it had not been for Howard and the placement I was at, that I would be dead or in jail or an institution. But someone like Howard cared. And so then that begs the question, what do we do? Well, I think 3 things. Number 1, please tell somebody about childhood trauma. I really believe if someone came up to me and said, man, I heard this person talk on Thursday night and I'm thinking about it, you should know about this. You should know about this health condition. You should become involved, right? And then the second is the next time someone gives you the honor of walking their trauma story in front of you, take that call for connection and answer it. And the third and final one is the celebration of you all here now, because we need to rise up and invest in the next generation of health. We need to let them know they matter, that they are resilient. And I think that is the power, is that you are the medicine. People are the medicine. One of my new projects is to start a new campaign called #FindHoward, because everybody deserves to have a Howard, right? There's this expression Mavis Leno says. She says, the next time you see someone being cruel to another human being, take it personal, because it is. And what I would say to add to that is, again, the next time someone walks that trauma story behind you, get involved, say something. I have an ACE score of 8. I have 3 daughters, ages 22, 16, and 11. My oldest daughter has an ACE score of 9, my younger 2 of 6. It's because I started learning about ACEs by the time my oldest daughter was about 25. About the time that I was about 25, 26. Parents are the number 1 protective factor, and that's caregivers. This agency, this system you support are caregivers. It makes a difference, right? But see, ACEs is not destiny. My daughters have resilience. They are doing things I never did, and they're doing things before. My 22-year-old will have my first grandchild in 2 weeks. And what hurts is that he already has an ACE of 3, but I'm determined to keep it there. And she already knows how to do that. And so I'll close with my 11-year-old, because she's that kid in my family that's the reality one. So I'll practice things on her, and she's like, yeah, Mom, you shouldn't say that. It kind of sucks. You should do it this way. So she's my reality check. And so I was putting her to bed one night, and I travel a lot. And she said, Mom, I think I know why you go away. You're a single mom, but I think I know why you go away. And I was scared to ask, because normally if you ask my kids, what does your mom do? They say she talks, and for some reason people pay her. Right? And so I was waiting for that. And she said, you know what? I think from what I understand, we've got 5 generations of violence in our family. And what you want is that my kids don't have that story. That's what I want for my children and my grandchildren. It's what I want for my community. It's what I want for your children, for Virginia, and for all the lives we touch. And I just have to say thank you, because if there weren't people like you, there wouldn't be stories like mine or any of the other kids and the lives you touch. So I just ask you, tell someone, because we can do something about this. It's not going to be monumental events that change this. It's going to be your ordinary acts of courage. And I thank you for your time.